1976 movie Sybil, or perhaps the opposing characters of Jekyll and Hyde. Popular culture would have you believe that people with multiple personalities are dangerous, and few and far between. However, an estimated 150 million people experience dissociative disorders. What is it like to live with multiple people in one body? Today, you'll meet two people. Encina, diagnosed 8 years ago with dissociative identity disorder, who has 11 personalities. And you'll meet Minnie, the 3-year-old girl who lives inside Encina's body.
All right, Encina, tell us where you're from.
So I was born in California and lived there until I was around 5 years old. And my family moved to Arizona, and I've been there ever since.
And you have a unique diagnosis of having dissociative identity disorder. A lot of people know that as multiple personality disorder. When were you diagnosed with it?
I was diagnosed, I think I was like 22 or 23.
Okay. And what led to the actual diagnosis?
I started having a lot of amnesia feelings, which a lot of people are, they could think of as a normal thing. You forget what you have for breakfast the day before. And it just became so big that things were happening. It's really hard to explain until you're actually like kind of going through it. That I was seeing therapists regularly, and it was just a diagnosis that ended up happening.
So you're having these events in your life where you Monday morning wake up and you can't remember what you did over the weekend. And Wednesday at night you're going to bed and you're thinking, what did I do this morning? What did I have to eat? And you don't think too much of it because people forget stuff. But then after 22, 23 years of this, you're seeing a therapist, and finally the therapist says, look, you have dissociative identity disorder.
But I've been seeing therapists even before then, but it ended up coming out, yeah, that's what it was.
And when you're Encina talking to me right now,
Yes.
But you have 11 other alters that you can go into. Can you tell me about each one of those?
So I can tell you about, basically I have 5 primary alters, which are the ones that I, if I'm gonna switch, I switch into them very regularly. I have one that I usually, in the past, I would switch into almost every single day.
Every single day. And how long do you switch into that person?
So she would come out for hours at a time, and sometimes for days at a time.
But did this go on for months, years, days?
This was like years, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about her.
Okay, so it's gonna sound kind of weird. So basically, let me start from the beginning a little bit. So people with DID, they get it by having traumatic, reoccurring childhood experiences that were just like unavoidable, and it's repetitive usually. So it's a lot of like, just different kinds of harming things that are happening to these people that are just super traumatic.
And you're saying, from your understanding, it's not just something that occurs once, it's something that's occurring more regularly.
Yeah, it's absolutely more repetitive. It's stuff that's absolutely reoccurring. And people with DID, they get it around the ages of like newborn to around 6 to 7 years old. So you can't get DID after that time. So to kind of describe it, everybody starts out with multiple personalities, if you can kind of imagine that. And then as you get older, your personalities come into one person. If you've experienced trauma, reoccurring trauma as a child, usually before that age, those ages, your personalities stay split. And as a child, these traumatic experiences are going to create these different personalities and these different alters, if you will. And basically, they're what you're taking from around you. So some people will have alters that are like animals. Some people will have alters that are completely like non-living things like rocks, which sounds very odd, but it's what you know as a child, what can protect you. And those alters become your protectors. So it's not a bad thing that they're there.
Do you want to talk about what happened in your childhood that caused you to develop DID?
So, I don't remember the majority of my life up until like around 6 years old. I have like very small little clips, I guess, but like only a couple of them. But I know that it was a sexual abuse thing, and it did happen with my father, along with like some of his friends.
And you know this happened, but for the most part, you can't remember it.
So it wasn't up until I started seeing my therapist and I started like becoming more aware of my alters and knowing who they were. So when I first started understanding that I had DID, obviously your first thought and first want to do is to fight against it. I don't want this. I don't want multiple personalities. You know, it's not a good thing. Like, you want to get rid of them. You can't get rid of DID. You can never even get rid of an alter. They're always going to be there.
So these things happened to you when you were a kid, and then through your teens and early 20s, you were experiencing symptoms of DID, but it was undiagnosed. And then you went to therapy, got diagnosed with DID, and you total have 11 alters, 5 of which are primary, but 1 used to come out every day. Let's start with her.
Okay. So she is, her name is Minnie, and she's a 3-year-old girl.
And that's one of your alters.
She's one of my alters. And
now, is she you when you were 3?
No. So she was like the first one. The next one that ended up coming out was Devin, and Devin is Minnie's caretaker, if you will. So if there's something that is happening that a 3-year-old shouldn't be seeing, she'll take over instead.
Devin will take over. So Devin's a girl.
Yeah.
So Devin will come out. It's kind of like Minnie has DID. I feel like, and she has to become Devin in order to. Kind of.
So, like, if a traumatic experience is happening, like, the first thing in alters, like, the first thing that they want to do is they want to help. So what they do is they take over. So that's what they would do when I was a child. You know, if a traumatic experience was happening to me as a child, they would take over. They would basically drive the body, if you will, kind of like a car.
Are you aware that you've been taken over?
So usually I wasn't, because I wasn't aware of all of that. But as, you know, I went through life and I started experiencing, okay, I get dizzy or I get kind of like tired and things like that, I started recognizing that, okay, I'm getting ready to switch. And as I started to work with them instead of against them, it became a lot easier. And it became like okay, I'm going to switch. They're just going to take over. It's not a big deal. Okay, fine. We started to communicate with each other through a diary. And which was the only way that I could communicate with some of them. I've never even met all of them myself. I am co-conscious with 5 of them, meaning if they're out, I can see what they're seeing if they decide. So they can decide to kind of block me out. If I'm not co-conscious and I'm completely like in an amnesia state, then you know it's usually one of the other alters or something else is happening.
One of the 6.
Yeah.
When is the last time Minnie came out?
She actually doesn't come out as often anymore. I was in some pretty abusive relationships, and she would come out all the time because of that. But she hasn't been out for about a month now.
Oh, a month. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about the last time she was out. What was the context?
It was just kind of playing around and just hanging out at the house. And she comes out and she wanted to color, so she colored. She's got her own like coloring books and stuff.
And how long was she out?
Maybe an hour.
And were you co-conscious?
Yeah.
And tell me about Encina's experience being co-conscious with Minnie.
So let me put it like this: when Minnie decides to come out, she does this thing where it's so she doesn't front fully, meaning she's not taking over the body fully. She'll kind of like peek through my eyes to see who's around and see if it's safe for her to even be herself. And if it is, she'll take over the body. She fronts and she will be herself doing what she does. And if she feels kind of nervous, it's her way of holding my hand if I'm co-conscious, if I can see. Meaning if she gets a little too nervous, then I'll just take over again. If she's completely like, oh, I've got this, like I'm not nervous with this person, it's okay, sometimes she'll just block me out. And meaning like I'm kind of like in an amnesia state.
Is that scary?
It used to be. It used to be really scary because when I go through things like anxiety, when it's like a really scary anxiety or something where I feel like very unsafe, basically, I go through a lot of amnesia stuff. And I've had times where, you know, I would be watching TV or something, and then I'd wake up or come to, and I was like in the middle of the street somewhere else. And I was like, where am I?
Wow.
That doesn't happen now, but it did in the past.
Why do you think it doesn't happen as much anymore?
I think it's just because me, along with my alters, we know that we're not in a dangerous situation anymore. We're not.
So as your life improved, your DID has improved.
Yeah.
Is that common with people like you?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay.
As long as you're taking care of yourself and you're, you know, seeing a therapist still, at least, you know, make sure that it's somebody who knows what DID is and how it works, then absolutely, you know, who knew being with a supportive boyfriend, you know, would help.
And you are in a relationship.
Yes.
And it is a healthy relationship.
Absolutely, 100%,
And
yeah.
that relationship, you think, may have helped curb the instances of having these alters come out?
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, you go from being in one relationship where you're terrified for your life every day, and then you go to the next one where you're just like, you feel so safe and so content, like nothing could ever bad like happen to you again. Oh, every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
And what percentage of those times were you not co-conscious? You were in an amnesia state?
The majority of the time, because I felt very unsafe with the person that I lived with.
And what happens if you're just driving and a 3-year-old alter wants to come out?
That's why Devin is her protector, to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen.
So what if Devin wants to take over and drive?
And she can. She's 26 years old, and
now,
she can.
if you're in the car, as Encina, and you're driving, and then Devin takes over, and Devin's driving,
Yeah.
and you get pulled over, and the police officer says, "Do you know I pulled you over?" And Devin says, "Well, I was going a little fast." And he says, "I want your driver's license." And you hand it to him, and it says Encina. And then he says, "What's your name?" And you say,
So Devin will say Encina.
Devin will say Encina.
The alters, so basically the alters stay hidden. There's like 3 main rules for alters. To stay hidden, unless if they're welcome, you know, unless if you know, like, oh, this alter's gonna come out. I believe you are an alter. I know that you're not faking. I'm not just doing this as like a, oh, show me a trick type of thing. To keep the past a secret, to keep it safe, basically, and to keep the body safe. So within those 3 things, if they're doing those things, they're doing their job.
But there are people who have DID and their alters come out, and they're not keeping the past a secret, and they don't care who you are.
Usually, when it comes to the past, that's why the majority of people don't realize they even have DID, because they have had amnesia in the past. They don't know what happened to them in the past. They don't know why their mind is working the way that it is, and why they're blacking out, and why things are happening. They don't understand.
Real quick, can you list your altars and give me a 2 to 3 sentence bio for each?
Oh my God. Let's move past that.
No, too much.
Let's move past that. That's a lot.
So why is that?
There's so much detail. They all have different ideas.
And you have this journal.
Yeah. It's something that it's money in order to actually understand what was happening to me. Because if you think of this, as me, Encina, I am also considered an alter. How do you know that Devin isn't the real Encina?
Right.
You know? And I'm just the one taking over.
Right.
You know, it's a very scary thought for the person who has DID, because you never know which like personality is actually the one that
The
belongs.
real one.
Yeah, the very original.
Yeah, is that appropriate to say the real one or the
The
original one?
original, yeah. Because, I mean...
Because Encina's personality, who I'm talking to right now, could just be the one that made it to the top.
Yeah.
And why does that bother you?
It's not that it necessarily bothers me. It's more of a thought of like, there's still so much that I don't understand about it.
Is that why you don't want to go through your 11 altars?
I think it's just because they have their own lives as well. And not all of them want to share everything about it. So again,
I'm not pushing you for the
like I said,
answer.
I've never even met all of them personally. Like, I've only talked to some of them even just through paper. So I have a couple of friends who have met like all of them, and they're even a reason that I know of some of the personalities.
Because you've never met them.
I've just never met some of them.
So I think most people will be interested in learning about these personalities. So we have Minnie, 3-year-old, dominant personality, comes out the most. We have Devin, Minnie's caretaker.
Yeah.
Now there are 3 more primary ones. Can you talk to us about those?
So there's Evlazen.
Evlazen.
There's Alora.
Now all women.
All women.
Do you have any male alters?
I don't. I have. So I have twin alters, Quinn and Quentin. Quentin considers himself to be kind of versatile.
Oh, like
That's the only alter that I have that's like versatile.
like more gender fluid.
Yes.
Okay.
I also have an alter that is a fairy.
Like not a human.
And that's Alora.
Alora. She's one of the primary 5. All right, let's talk about Alora. What does she protect you from?
So she is, I mean, they're all gonna protect in some way or another. But she's basically like a very calm, rational, like, what can we do to get things done and situated, you know, things like that. So.
What is she like? I know she's calm, rational, wants to get things done. How does she talk? How does she sit? Like, what?
She talks very calm. She's like thousands of years old from what she says. You know, she's a fairy, so she. I think she's been one of the primary ones, you know, because as a 3-year-old, you know, I kind of believe in magic and stuff, and I believe that's kind of where it came from.
Right.
Now, the person, the fronter, I don't create altars, if that makes makes any sense. Like, I'm not like thinking, oh, I want this kind of a person, so it becomes an alter. Like, it's just,
That just happened.
yeah, it's what you know.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to understand. People are going to be watching this and thinking, well, this girl's got blue and purple hair, and she thinks that sometimes she, like, is a fairy. Like, that's what people are going to think.
Oh, yeah.
What's the response to that?
The response is, I mean, the only thing I can do is just put out the information that I know, what I've gone through, my experiences, whether people believe it or not. Like, it's not going to hurt me. I know what I'm going through every single day, you know, like, so if people are going through it as well, it's nice to be able to find other resources that can help.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, we were talking early on about how there are doctors and therapists and psychiatrists who think that this is not even not even something to be treated because it's a joke. It's silly. And not too many decades ago, that was the same response for homosexuality. You know, and so as we continue having these discussions and insight and doing the research, I think the stigma is slowly removed.
A big stigma also is that DID is rare. And it's not.
What makes you say that?
So, if you look up the statistics, DID affects people, you know, the 1 to 2% of the population of the human population, basically.
Okay.
And like, there's a lot of other disorders that are in small percentages, small, but when you really think about it, there's 75 million people to 150 million people that have been diagnosed.
You're saying 75 million to 150 million people have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder
and DID.
And another 75 to 150 million diagnosed with DID. Yeah, and those are the diagnosed.
Yeah, that's just the diagnosed people. That's you know, have it for 20 years.
Yeah, and we've done a few video segments on bipolar disorder, and the amount of that goes on is staggering.
Yeah.
You know, people just think, oh, you're depressed, or wow, you have these moments of where you're just killing it for 3 days straight. But you know, it's an actual disorder that has to be treated. Do you have any alters that are dangerous?
No. I had an alter when I was like a teenager that would come out and cause a lot of trouble. Again, it was me thinking that I was just a troubled person because things would be happening and I'd be like, why am I yelling like this, or why am I this angry?
Interesting. How old were you?
14, 15, 16, around that age. And even my mom would be like, you're like a very troubled teen. Like, what can we do for you?
The reason I asked how old you were, every teenager goes through that. 14, 15, 16-year-old, they get an attitude, they're yelling, they're screaming, whatever. Yours just happened to be a symptom of something that most people would never even think of.
Yeah. So my mom just thought for a long time I was this troubled teen. And going through the therapy and stuff, we were able to basically kind of, I'll say this in an easy way for people to understand it, kind of mend her into the other alters as well. So she's not like her own singular angry alter anymore. She has become kind of a part of the system as a whole.
Part of the system. So interesting how you think that terminology you use.
That's what a lot of people with DID, they call their system a system. They call all of their alters in general together, that's their system. Some people, it gets so detailed and so like intense because of how deep their DID goes. Again, everybody's is different. But with mine, I've been able to make it to where I'm not struggling against it anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to say something that I'm sure some people will say that's not politically correct, and how could you say that? But there are those who study DID, dissociative identity disorder, and say that it could be the first superpower of humans. Because, for example, the New York Times did a story on a woman who either as herself or as one of the alters was blind, and then as an alter herself she could see. So let's just say she as herself, as Jessica will say, could see, but then as an alter was blind. There have also been cases of people who said, hey, I'm Kyle, I don't have diabetes, you can take my blood. They go into one of their alters, they take blood, and those blood tests come back as being positive for diabetes. So if that is true, and you can have blood that is diabetic and then not diabetic, and the same human being, just because something something's going on, that's a superpower. Do you feel like it's a superpower?
I feel like people in general have like power, if you will. You know, you have the power to make yourself a happy and healthy person with work. Everything takes work. You know, so I mean, I don't want to say it's a superpower as in like this is the ability to fly and the other one can't, but I mean, I believe these situations is to be true as well.
Are you happy that you have the ID?
I am now, because without it, I would have traumatically experienced every single encounter that happened to me that caused me to have DID. I would have, you know, remembered it, and it would have been like a, this is happening to me, basically. So my alters took over. I was blacked out. It happened to them, if you will, and
there would be therapists who would say you need to go through that though.
I feel like the therapists are more like, you have to remember the past and go through the work to heal from the past.
That's what I mean.
In order to heal from it, yes, but not necessarily like you should be getting raped.
No, of course not. Of course not. But that you should understand the past, so you can get past it.
Absolutely, and that's what happened. My alters ended up coming out and saying like what happened to me and like how it happened.
So you've gone through that.
So I've gone through the healing. I've gone through the, you know, work, and I'm still going through it. You know, I go through it every day.
Yeah, forever.
So like one of the hardest instances that I went through, well, one of the most frustrating ones when I was kind of fighting against this was Devin came out. I became friends with a group of people who knew of Devin and knew of my alters and such. But Devin ended up being in a relationship with somebody that I wasn't in a relationship with. So I had to share my time with the body. I had to know, okay, Devin's gonna come out and go on her date. I'm gonna come out and have to go to school. Like, it was a really frustrating time.
Were you co-conscious?
Not the majority of the time.
So you as the body are dating this person, but unaware of it.
I mean, I'm aware of it because I've been told they're dating.
But when you're out to dinner with this person on a date, no clue.
Unaware. Not there.
Couldn't say who the person was, where you went. I don't know what I had to eat. And then you...
So for me also, as one of the statistics that you were talking about, I am very sensitive to gluten, and my alters are not.
So when you, if right now, if you had gluten, you would know. Oh, great. But how would you know that if you're not aware? Or what something was?
Sometimes I'm aware, and like they, you know, so when I eat specific kinds of wheat or bread, like I get really tired, or I kind of get a little sleepy.
Yeah.
And they're fine. It does not affect them whatsoever.
Eating bread.
Eating bread. Yeah.
When you meet somebody, when do you tell them, or do you tell them you have DID?
I don't tell everybody. If I'm really close to somebody, then you know I might let them know. But for the majority of the time, like I'm not just going out there and being like, hey, I'm Tina, I have DID. You know.
You're in a relationship. When did you tell him?
I told him it took a couple of months, but you know I ended up telling him he was very skeptical about it, like most people are, and he started to understand, you know, how it was as he was spending more time with like Minnie and stuff. So
He's met Minnie.
Mhm.
And what does he think about that?
oh, I mean, it's a normal thing now. Like he's like, okay, you have DID, that's fine.
And so Minnie just shows up and he hangs out with a 3-year-old in an adult woman's body.
Yep.
People are going to hear that and go, yeah, how is he doing that? And how are you doing that? I mean, that's just going to be the reaction.
Yeah.
But you guys have made it work.
Yeah.
Wow. That is really fantastic. When you tell somebody, I have dissociative identity disorder or multiple personalities, what is their reaction?
A lot of people, you know, their only experience from it is from Hollywood, TV, things like that. So they're going to think, oh, the Jekyll and Hyde thing. They're going to think, oh, are you dangerous some days and not dangerous other days? But I think that's the majority of the reaction that I get is like, oh, do you do this? Or does this happen?
What are the questions?
Questions like, you know, oh, do you get really angry at times? And like where does that come from? Like, no. They're normal people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But they're normal people, but it is not common to have someone who has 11 different personalities. Some of which that you wouldn't even know you were being.
Yeah.
But right now I am talking to Encina.
Yes.
And if I was talking to an alter, would that alter lie to me?
Possibly.
So there is a chance I'm talking to an alter that is just saying they're Encina.
So I'm going to say no because I am Encina, but I get what you're saying.
Wouldn't the alter
Yes,
say that?
I absolutely get what you're saying. Yes.
So there's a chance though.
If they don't feel safe, they're going to pretend that they're me. If they feel safe and they just are doing their thing, then they'll be themselves.
Do you know, let's assume you are presenting, do you know how you feel about all these lights and craziness?
Yeah. So I actually had a YouTube channel like in the past, and I wanted to make light of DID. Not in like a I'm making fun of it, but let's not take it so seriously and make everybody think that people with DID are, you know, psychos.
Right.
They're going to kill you or anything. So I started making YouTube videos, and I would have my alters come out. I would have some videos where I would basically ask my alters questions as me, and then they would respond as them. So it was a lot of cutting, like, of the video.
And you would have to wait until your alters came out to do that?
Yeah, so I would have my friends help me film it and stuff, so it was a lot easier to transition into those.
Can you voluntarily bring out an alter?
If they want to come out, yes. And only the ones that I'm like co-conscious with, really. Otherwise, like it's usually just a traumatic experience or some kind of like a trigger that will bring them out.
So Minnie and Devin are the most likely to come out if you were going to.
Yes.
Okay. How has it affected your relationship?
I don't think it actually affected any of them like negatively. I have been in a lot of abusive relationships in the past, but that wasn't because of my alters. It was just because these people were very abusive. And now that I'm in a very healthy relationship, it kind of is just, it is what it is, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to. Yeah, it's fine.
What was the worst experience of having DID?
The worst experience would probably be going days without knowing what was happening. Not knowing where I have been or what I've done or anything.
Tell me about that.
I mean, if you wake up, you know, days later and you're like, where am I? It's a scary feeling. That's probably Like, I can't say that one is like harder than the other necessarily. It's all a very scary experience when you're not understanding what's happening.
When people ask you to explain what it's like to have DID or what it's like to have an alter come out, how do you explain that to them?
So, one description that I could tell you, maybe, think of this. Think of your body as a car, okay? You're driving your car. You're in the front seat and you're doing your thing. So I'm driving my body, you know? Imagine someone takes you out and throws you in the back seat. Now they're driving, you're in the back seat though. You can fight for control of the car or the body. You might not always win that fight. You can see what's happening, just like you can see in the car. You're just sitting in the back seat. You can hear what's happening or what's being said. So that's kind of like as if Minnie had come out, but she was holding my hand. So I can still see. I'm still conscious. Say someone stuck a bag over my head, threw me in the back seat. Now I can't see where the body or the car is going. I can't see where I'm going. I can't see what's happening. I can hear though. So it's kind of like a wall has been placed in front of my eyes. And that's another way of being co-conscious to a point, but I can't see. I can hear. Imagine someone, let's see, someone threw you in the trunk, okay? So you're in the trunk of this car. You know that the car is going. You can't hear what's happening. You can't see what's happening. You don't know what's happening. That is a type of amnesia that is happening to the body. And then imagine somebody has knocked you out, thrown you in the trunk, and then drove around, did their thing, whatever, and then put you back in the front seat before you woke up, and then you woke up. So now maybe this car is parked in a parking lot, or the body has walked somewhere. You don't know where you've been. That's full amnesia. That last experience is what most people think of when it comes to DID, but there's a whole level of like different types of switching or amnesia or, you know, alters coming out or not. If that makes sense.
I think that makes perfect sense. I think that will be the metaphor that people understand the most without having DID. But it amazes me that today you're happy to have it.
Yeah, I'm very thankful. If an experience happens that like I just can't handle, I know that they have my back. They're there to help me. So it's not, you know, a bad thing.
What type of doctors do you see, and how many do you see for DID?
So unfortunately, I still haven't been able to find a doctor who specializes in DID in Arizona that is close to me. I have spoken to doctors who believe DID and who are very reassuring when it comes to it and stuff, and who will still talk to me about it and things, you know, like let me be me and let the alters come out and such. But I haven't been able to find very many that actually like are close to me and specialize in it.
Do you take medicine for this?
I don't. So there is no medication that you can take to stop switching or to stop the DID. You can take medications to help with whatever other kinds of diagnoses you have. So most people who have DID, they'll have, you know, one of their alters will have bipolar, or they'll be depressed, or they'll have like a heart condition, you know, so they'll take medications for those specific things, those other mental disorders, but there's nothing that you can take for DID specifically to stop it.
I know you don't want to, and I'm not asking you to, but why do you feel uncomfortable trying to bring men on camera?
So I don't feel comfortable with that because it's not my choice. They're, you know, their own person as well, and if they wanted to come out, they absolutely could. Minnie used to come out a lot, and she's come out with the majority of the videos that I had in the past. She's met the majority of my friends that know she has her own feelings too, you know, as a 3-year-old, and you have people who, you know, who were my friends who loved her, and then, you know, disappeared, and then they're not there anymore. So she has her own level of like, don't leave me type of thing. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
As a 3-year-old would. So.
And none of your alters age. So Encina
Which
gets
is not always the same with everybody. Some people do have alters that age. Mine don't.
If you could have all your alters lined up, all 11 of your personalities, would there be some of them that you would love to sit down and talk to as Encina? What would you say to them?
Oh, absolutely. Because me and Minnie have been so close for so long. You know, she's the first alter that I know of that would come out as a protector, and I can hear her voice. I can see what she's doing. Like they have their own world inside.
Can you see what she looks like?
Yeah, I can see what she looks like and
What does she look
everything.
like?
So she has like silver hair, and she has like a little beauty mark. She's really tiny. She's really cute. Like it's.
Hi. You're Minnie?
Yeah. I'm Lynn. I'm 3. And
You're 3? What do you think about all these cameras? A lot of cameras? And do you like Encina?
yeah, she like my mommy.
What are those? What's your favorite animal?
I like my kitty cat.
What's your cat's name?
I squeeze.
Oh, sweet.
And we have another one. He named a girl. And he's a very, very good one. He's scared all the time though.
Now, why did you decide to come out and say hi to everybody?
But because my mommy did videos like this a long time ago, I would do those ones too. And we had lots of fun. We had my mommy's other friends would be there, and they would help out too with the videos.
Yeah.
And it was lots of fun to cuddle, and I got to do lots of games, and I like it.
Okay, good. So what's your favorite game?
I don't know. I like a lot of them. I used to go to the park all the time, and we would go and go on the slide and go around like that, and we would play a lot.
Okay. And you like Devin, right? Devin's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are there any other friends that you like?
My mommy had lots of good friends that I like too. And I like Arid, and he's really good to me.
Alan. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you go to Disneyland recently?
Yeah, and we go on a ride, and they're lots of fun. And Janet likes to come out too to play on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're lots of fun.
Yeah. And how long have you known Encina?
All the time. She not go nowhere. She always there.
And do you, I know this is a big word, okay, but do you know what dissociative identity disorder is?
That's what my mommy said that we have.
Yeah. But do you know what it is?
It makes lots of people be your friend.
Yeah. And so you like it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And you like Encina.
Uh-huh.
And you feel safe with her.
Uh-huh.
And Encina likes you too.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your favorite food again?
I like ice cream.
Ice cream. And now when you leave here, where do you go?
I have like my own house inside too.
You have your own house?
I live with Devin.
With Devin? And what does your house look like?
It's a big one. I have my own bedroom and we play in there a lot. And that's where I go if we have to do other things. If mommy has to be out.
Okay, so when mommy comes out, then you go to the house and play and stuff with Devin.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so when was the last time you came out here?
I not come out like very many that much more. But we can see. We can see what happens.
Oh, so you can see what's going on. You just don't. You don't have to. You don't always come out though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are there things? Or do you wish you came out more? Or are you happy to stay?
I like to come out more. I like to come out and play on color.
And what?
And I like to color.
Oh, and color. Okay. Good. I'm glad you came out.
Wow.
And I'm glad you're not nervous with all the lights and cameras.
Is there lots of people?
Yeah, and all the people. Yeah. But you're good on TV.
Okay.
And so now, what are you and Devin doing tonight?
We play color.
Color? Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we can make lots of pictures.
All right. I love it. So what else can you tell me?
What do you have? You have an animal?
Yeah, I have a dog.
It's a puppy.
Yeah, you saw her earlier. So you like animals, and you have 2 cats. Yeah. Do you think the dog would like the cats? Yeah.
The kitty is mine. I'm scared.
Of the dog. Yeah. But they'll be okay. Yeah. And are you okay with water? Or do you want something else to drink?
I don't want muffins.
You don't want what?
I don't want muffins.
You don't want any?
I'm not fussy.
Okay. Oh, you're not. You're easy. You're an easy 3-year-old. A lot of 3-year-olds are not. They're much more difficult than you.
No. Yeah, I tried with some friends, but it's very hard. They don't look like me.
What do they look like?
There's widower, and because I'm a mommy, it gets scary sometimes.
What gets scary?
Cause there's widow and they're not be my friend.
Like other 3-year-olds? They don't want to. Other 3-year-olds don't want to be your friend. But you have Devin though.
Yeah.
And Mom. So they're your friend. Yeah. And 2 cats. I love it. What's so funny?
I just like to eat.
Oh, I get it. All right, so then, Minnie, when you're ready to go home, how do you go home?
I just my mommy come out.
Oh, okay. You want to go get her?
Oh, okay.
How are you feeling?
I'm a little nervous.
Why are you nervous?
Very nervous. Just it's big. It's a big thing. It's nice when I'm able to, because I know that like she really appreciates it when she can be herself. But it's really nerve-wracking for me as a person.
Were you co-conscious that whole time?
Yeah, I could see what was happening.
So what was happening?
Just as if you were looking like at a movie theater. Somebody was sitting like watching. So what's happening through the eyes. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm almost like watching like as if I'm in a movie theater.
When Minnie says that you're like her mother, how does that?
It was fine at first, actually. It was a way for me to kind of relate to her. And that's kind of what we've gone with. You know, she called me mommy, and that's fine. I mean, I feel like she's my little girl in a way. Like, I have to protect this little being that's inside, you know? So, in a way, it's fine.
What do you say to the people who watch this and say, oh, this is that?
I feel like whatever you want, that's fine. Like, again, it's not going to hurt me. I know what I experience every day. I would tell people just keep an open mind that, you know, other people who have the ID, it's possible. So, you know, it's the reason why a lot of people don't even come out about it. You know, I've been a part of different kinds of groups on like Facebook and stuff where, you know, a wife has the idea and she's like, I can never meet my husband because I just can't trust that he would actually like be there for me, you know? So just be supportive of the people that you love. In like an adrenaline way, not necessarily, more of like a little bit of anxiety, like, oh, this is happening, okay?
Anxiety.
Yeah.
For
But,
Encina. Not for me.
yeah.
Just excitement. What did Minnie think of me?
No, she was fine with you. She's fine with most people when she comes out. She just wants to get along.
What did you think of her?
She liked it. She was fine.
Why do you think she changed her mind?
I think it was because we've done videos in the past, and it's something that she got excited to do because we would come up with like scripts for it and stuff. And she got to play. It was her way of playing and getting to be, you know, with the adults and stuff. So, I mean, I've taken her to like the park. They're like, oh, how old are you? Because she's walking and talking like a kid. And she says 3 years old. And they're like, oh, you're a big 3-year-old. They believe it, you know. But obviously the parents are going to be like, get this child away from my kids, you know. So it's a little rough. It's sad because she wants friends.
What
and
happened
she
when
can't
you did
really
that?
have friends. She got to play with these kids, you know. She had her toys. She brought her toys to the park too.
And then the parents said,
I mean, the parents kind of like looked a little bit. I was with one of my friends who sorry, I talked to the parent, and she came back understanding. Like, she wasn't like, oh, this is weird, like I gotta get my kids away or anything. But she's a 3-year-old that can't have her own friends other than like the adults that are around already.
it's so interesting to hear you talk about her like she is another person who's sitting here. I understand you're saying that they are people. But to me, I'm like, no, this is just Encina when she's acting like a 3-year-old. That's how it comes off.
Yeah.
Where we know that this is actually a separate human being. Wow. That just blew my mind. I've never seen anything before like that.
It can. I mean, it's hard to grasp.
It's hard to grasp just sitting here watching it.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared. I didn't prepare to interview a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here going, well, of course I would love to meet any alters that could come. But then I kind of just didn't know what to talk to her about.
Yeah.
A, she's 3 years old.
Yeah.
But it's also a grown woman in front of me.
Oh yeah, I mean I get it. I've met people with DID where it's hard for me to grasp because they have their own worlds and their own minds and their own personalities, and and some of them are like wolves or like different like creatures and stuff that are mythological and stuff.
Right.
And for me, I'm like, oh, okay, how do I act in front of this other being or creature? Like,
Yeah, this wolf,
yeah,
but I'm sitting across from an adult.
yeah,
Wow. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable
of course.
and bringing Minnie out. I'm sure she's going to be the star of YouTube, so she'll appreciate that. Thank you.
No, of course, of
All right.
course.
What do you wish everyone knew about people with DID?
I wish they like understood that they're not just an alter. It's not just an alter ego. It's not something that we made up. You know, these are other actual people with their own lives, their own likes, dislikes, their own taste in music, their own like personalities in general. They all look different. They just share one body. So it's I wish I could explain to everybody how these people aren't dangerous. People with DID are usually the people to have stuff happen to them. They're not the ones that are going to turn into like psycho killers.
That's a good point. There's something traumatic has happened when they were young, and now they have DID as the consequence of that, but now are being victimized in a certain way because of the stigma attached to it, and they were the ones who were originally attacked. Huh. Have you met anyone else with DID?
I have, and it's been, it was comforting. It was really, really comforting knowing that there's others out there that are comfortable enough to like come out of their shell and say, I have this too, and not like keep it locked away. Just the more that people can hear about it and know that it's real, you know that there is hope. You know, it can only get better from here. You know, there can only be more resources from here. So the more that kind of stuff can happen and come upon people, I think that's going to be the best thing that happens.
Well, I think you're very brave for doing this, but I think you're going to help so many people who not only might be struggling with DID themselves, but maybe know somebody who is. And I think all of us doing our part to be educated on the things that we know very little about is the first step on that. And Sina, thank you for talking to Med Circle today.
Thanks for watching. Your next step is to head on over to